I met her in my church. I remember seeing a beautiful lady. She was beautiful. She was just standing there, praying softly to herself. I remember she smashed a chair, a wooden chair, on my head. Um,
Wow.
I was so afraid. If we had any misunderstanding, I was always afraid because she could call the police.
Hmm.
And it impacted me. It made me I felt weaker as a man. There was a day on a Sunday I was about to leave to go to church, and she locked the door. She refused to open the door. And in my desperation, because I really wanted to get to church, I jumped off the balcony from the first floor. I jumped down, and I was wearing some heavy shoes on that particular day. I ended up fracturing my ankle.
While you were married, was there any incident of infidelity? Remi Odumesi is a prominent figure in the UK gospel music scene, recognized as an accomplished gospel recording artist, worship leader, songwriter, and broadcaster. He is particularly known for his enthusiastic approach to praise and worship. Remi was the lead vocalist in the GEM Awards winning gospel group GK Real and is popular for singing the hit praise song Blessed Jesus. He has also released a 3-track EP called Jesus Reigns, as well as 4 singles called Living Water, This Is the Day, Emmanuel, and An Encounter. He has served as a choir director at House on the Rock, London, and worship pastor at the Liberty Church, London. He ministers at churches and conferences worldwide, advocating for unreserved praise to God. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Remi Odumesi. Whenever we hear about domestic violence or abuse in marriage, for most of us, the first impression is that the man is the villain and the woman is the victim. However, this is not always the case. On today's episode of the Total Man Diaries podcast, we are hoping to bring a balance to this perspective and make our viewers aware that men could be victims of domestic abuse as well. My guest today is a survivor of domestic abuse. Pastor Remi, it's good to have you on the Total Man Diaries podcast today.
I'm glad to be here, and it's such a privilege to be able to come on your show. So thank you for having me.
Fantastic. And you know what? I have to commend you for agreeing to to come over here today to tell your story. And you have a very interesting story, and I believe that there's a lot of lesson in it for all our viewers today. I hope you are ready.
I'm ready. I believe there's so much for me to tell.
Fantastic, fantastic. So without any further ado, I would like you to tell us a bit more about yourself, apart from what we have heard in your profile. So what else do you want to tell us about yourself that, possibly most people will not know about you?
Well, I'm a father of 5 children, 5 beautiful, wonderful children that God has blessed me
Fantastic.
with.
Wow.
I'm divorced.
All right.
And I'm an IT asset manager, but I'm currently working in operations right now. Occasionally, I'm into broadcasting, and I just love God so much.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And of course, in your answer now, you've made us aware that you are divorced. Now, can you tell us how you met your ex-wife?
Well, I met her in my church, and my church at the time was House on the Rock, London.
Okay.
And I remember one day we had a night vigil. I think whether it was a men's night vigil, I'm not sure, but most of us were men in the night vigil. And I remember seeing a beautiful lady. She was beautiful. She was just standing there, praying softly to herself. And while we're praying, the brothers are praying, we're keeping one eye open, and I was, I was praying in the spirit, but my eyes were open.
I understand.
So I saw this beautiful
So you were
woman.
watching and praying.
I was watching her pray. Hallelujah. So but after the prayer meeting, some of the guys were talking, did you see that lady? And I was like, yeah. But so I later on I just ignored. I mean, I forgot all about it. And then there was another day in the church service. We were in the hall, I think after the service, and then there was a lady. The same lady was calling my name, but in a whisper from afar. But I heard it, so I was intrigued, and I went up to her. She introduced herself. I introduced myself, and later on, she joined the choir. We became close.
At
And
this time, were you in the choir as well?
I was in charge of the choir.
Oh, I see.
So my eyes were on everybody, but I noticed her. But yeah, as time went on, we became close, and then we started a relationship. Yeah.
Fantastic. So around what year was this, if I may ask?
Ooh, that was, I would say maybe about 2004, 2004, 2003, 2004.
Okay, so 2003, 2004, you met. So when did you get married?
So eventually we got married in 2007.
Okay.
Yes.
So 2003, 2004, you met, and then along the line, you started dating.
Yeah.
And then, so that means you dated for about 3 or 4 years, and then you got married in 2007.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it was a great wedding as well.
Okay.
An amazing wedding. I felt the presence of God there.
Fantastic.
Pastor Gabriel Shiashi led praise and worship on the day. So it was a very significant day for me.
Oh, fantastic. So tell us about the early stage, the early stages of your marriage. How was marriage? How was it shortly after you got married? Was it good? Was there any problem straight away?
Well, it was wonderful at first. I've always wanted to marry someone, and she was a beautiful woman, lovely woman. And it was great until sometime during the first year of our marriage, things began to go downhill.
The first year?
Yeah, first year.
So what went wrong? How did things start going downhill?
There was a day we had a misunderstanding.
Okay.
And she verbally insulted me from top to bottom, like I've never heard anyone insult me before. And I was quite shocked by it, but also I was really annoyed. I was still young at heart, in terms of marriage, and I think I ended up slapping her for it.
So this is the first year?
Yeah, the first year.
Okay, so you laid your hands on her?
I did.
Wow.
Not proud of it. It was completely wrong. But I grew up because when I was born here in the UK, but when I was 8 years old, our parents took me and my siblings back to Nigeria. So I grew up in Nigeria, and where I grew up amongst my uncles because we had this compound, and I saw my uncles treat their wives in bad ways. For example, if the wife were to do something wrong, people would say, slap her. And, I used to see my uncles and men slap their wives, and it was like the norm.
Wow.
This back in Nigeria. So I grew up witnessing this so many times. And unfortunately, I didn't know that subconsciously it was in me.
Wow.
So it wasn't until that moment of verbal abuse, like she was so disrespectful, but and I responded. I was shocked that, I responded in that way. But still, the first time that I did that, I still didn't know that what I was doing was wrong.
Wow. So the verbal abuse kind of brought out maybe a kind of demon, if I could say, in you that you never knew was there.
Definitely.
Wow.
100%. I never knew it was there. I'm not justifying what I did, but she had a sharp tongue. My wife at the time had a sharp tongue, and I didn't expect that. So yeah, that's what happened.
Okay. So after you slapped her, so what happened next?
So definitely she was in shock to that. But as time went on again, we had another misunderstanding.
Okay. So that first time you were able to resolve it, so to speak.
Yes,
Okay.
know,
However, something then happened again.
yeah. So the first time, obviously, as time went on, I apologized. But then again, we had another misunderstanding,
Okay.
and it was
Like
quite.
how long in between?
Oh man, I
Can
would
you
probably
remember?
maybe a few months down the line,
Okay.
2, 3 months down the line,
Yeah.
and it happened again. She was extremely rude, and I responded actually the same way. I slapped her once again,
Okay.
and yeah, it was bad.
Okay. And then after that.
Yes, and then
Mm.
the final incident. At the time, she was pregnant at that time
Wow.
for our first baby, just a few months into the pregnancy, I believe. And we had a misunderstanding. There was a scuffle,
Mm.
and I remember she smashed a chair, a wooden chair, on my head.
Wow.
And
So this was the third
yeah,
incident.
the third
Okay.
incident. Because by that time she had kind of like built herself up to fight back,
Mm.
or to respond back. Because it
Mm.
wasn't like we were fighting the first time when I did what I did, which was horrible. It wasn't like we were fighting, but this time around she was fighting me.
So
And
when you say fighting you, so this was a physical
yeah, yeah. So this was
exchange,
physical.
not no longer not just verbal, but this time around like an exchange of blows or something.
Well, yeah, I would say blows, but there was a struggle or pushing each
Okay.
other,
Okay.
and she, the abuse was still going on. She was still verbally abusing me and all of that as well. So she ended up smashing a chair on my
On your
head,
head. Yeah.
and I remember she called the police.
Okay.
Called the police,
So,
and
and this was the first time she would call the police
that
on
was the
you.
first time. The first
Okay.
time she would call the police, and then the police, when they came, she just changed her attitude, started pretending,
Okay.
and started crying, and gave
Oh,
them an impression that it was all me.
wow.
Yeah. And I remember that day. That was the first time the police they arrested me. Actually,
Okay.
they put me. I wasn't violent. They put me in handcuffs, and that was the first time I had an encounter with the police.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing these. I can see that there is a lot of emotions involved here. You understand? But thank you so much for sharing this and making yourself vulnerable because I know it's not easy. As we continue in this conversation today, I want our viewers to be aware that this is not a woman bashing exercise. I know that a lot of women suffer domestic violence, and I do not want to minimize that in any shape or form. We just wanted you to know that men could be victims as well. Our hope is that this episode will encourage men going through abusive relationships to let them know that they are not alone. And we hope that they will find the strength to make the right decisions for themselves and for their children before it is too late. Once again, Pastor Remi, thank you for sharing with us, the background of the whole story. Thinking about the whole thing, everything that had gone wrong, what would you say were the foundations of the problem?
Hmm. I think one of the main problems we had in our marriage was the fact that we had different cultural backgrounds. Obviously, I'm British Nigerian, and she's British Zambian.
Okay.
And there are a lot of differences in our culture. And she was very domineering, I think, I've heard about Zambian women can be very, dominant in their character. Some might beg to differ, but my encounter with her, she was very dominant. And then also our upbringing was very, very different. And I think these were things that we didn't consider or talk about
Hmm.
prior to our marriage, and find ways how to solve our differences. So I think when we got married and we began to see all these differences, I think it kind of shook our marriage in ways that I didn't expect.
Okay. So, thank you for shedding some light into that. Now, you mentioned that at some point, especially when she was pregnant with your first child, um, she called the police on you when
Yeah.
you had a disagreement.
Yeah.
So from that point on, what happened? What were the things, that maybe some processes that you had to go through?
Oh well, after that encounter with the police, they said they were going to press charges. And later on, my wife at the time knew the implications of that and
Okay.
decided to retract her statement because obviously she lied in some instances. Some information was inaccurate that she gave them, and she wanted to retract her statement, but the police said they were not going to retract it. They were still going to pursue it. So I
Okay.
ended up eventually going to court. That's first year of our marriage.
Okay.
I ended up in court and was charged for domestic abuse. And so I had to see a probation officer for a year,
Okay.
and also I was going for a counseling, a program, a domestic abuse program called IDAP, which is Integrated Domestic Abuse Program.
Okay.
So, where I was sitting down with other men, some of them were criminals.
Wow.
It was crazy. And, I kept looking at myself, why am I here?
Hmm.
Just like in the movies where they say, what do you have to say, Remy? And that's what it was like. I think I did that for about 6 months. I wasn't allowed to miss even one session.
How often did you have to attend that?
I think it was weekly that I had to attend.
Weekly?
Yeah, once a week.
And you attended that for 6 months?
Yes.
That's about 26 sessions.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I still had to see my probation officer, on the side I think every 2 weeks or so. I even remember while I was, at speaking to my probation officer on a regular level, basis. He used to. I ended up used to counseling him.
Wow.
We would talk about things in life, and I would advise him, and he was so shocked. He used to say to me, Remy, I don't understand. Why are you here? I should not be counseling you. You seem to be a wonderful person. I've dealt with other people before, and they're nothing like you.
Wow.
He actually told me that you're a good person. So this was confirmation for me.
Wow.
Because I knew I loved God, and I knew I wasn't supposed to be there. But that's what I felt at the time.
However, you just felt that, okay, even though you're not supposed to be there,
Yeah.
you still wanted the marriage to work, and
Yes.
you just felt you need to do whatever it takes.
Definitely. Yeah, I served my time.
Your time.
Yes, because
Wow.
that's how it appeared to me. It felt like serving your time. I served my time, and I learned so much about myself.
Because I was going to ask, what did you take out of the counseling sessions?
Yeah, I learned about, because I felt like I had a temper.
Okay.
Prior to that, I could be easily irritated.
Okay.
And I learned about myself, about how to walk away from a heated argument, how to include timeout in our conversations,
Okay.
how to not escalate the conversations if they were heated. So I really learned how to calm myself down, even though if she was saying something that was provoking me. So I learned about how to really calm down and not escalate the situation, and also to appreciate her as a woman.
Okay.
And also to never, never, ever, ever lay my hands on her again, or slap her or anything like that. So I was quite remorseful, and I was so glad that I went through that program, because it really changed me in various ways.
Okay. Fantastic. So from the counseling sessions, you learned how to manage your temper and conflict resolution, I would say.
Definitely, definitely.
From that point on, was there any other incident, any other time when you raised your hand to hit her?
No.
Okay.
But there were times that we engaged in heated arguments, and it did get physical.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you say physical, this time around, was it instigated by you or was the role still reversed?
Well, by this time, something had happened in my wife at the time. She
Okay.
had become more aggressive, and she was more provoking. And anytime we had an argument, the next thing she would do was to call the police.
Okay.
And this went on and on in our marriage. It seemed like her calling the police was a form of control on me, or
Okay.
to put me, to make me fearful, um and it really impacted me a lot, because any slight misunderstanding, I'm
It's the
calling the
police.
police.
Wow.
So she became really aggressive and more controlling, and yeah, it was scary.
Wow. Wow. How long were you together for? That is, how long were you married for?
We
I know
were
you got married 2007.
That's right.
So
We were married for 14
for
years.
14 years. Wow. So that means until what's that? That's 2021.
Yes.
Wow. So, and within the 14 years of marriage, how many times would you say she called the police on you?
Oh
Can
my
you remember?
goodness. I would literally say, I would say probably over 7 times.
Wow.
Yeah. There's, in my mind, it's like 10 times, but I don't know. Maybe it could be around 10, but I know it was definitely over 7 times. And yeah, there were a few of those times that, I was in handcuffs. There were a few of those times I was in the cell, praising the Lord in the cell. And one of the things I want to say is that um, sometimes we men, when it comes to domestic violence, the we men are not believed. They don't believe what we say.
Okay.
And they just take the side of the
Of
woman
the women
completely.
straight away. Wow.
And even if the woman is the one that's instigated it, they would still feel it's the man. And there were times that, I wasn't violent, I wasn't aggressive, and and they would take me away. And I'm like,
Wow.
why are you putting me in handcuffs? I didn't do anything. And they'll say, oh, it's just a precaution. And yeah, I remember myself being in a police cell for at least, if I can remember, at least three times. But I was arrested quite a number of times.
Wow.
Yeah, and this was, and I have to say this. There were many times, like I said, that she would call the police on me for just no reason.
Hmm.
No reason. And I was so afraid. If we had any misunderstanding, I was always afraid, because she could call the police.
Hmm.
And it impacted me. It made me I felt weaker as a man.
So the more she called the police,
Yeah.
the weaker you felt.
The weaker I felt. The
Wow.
weaker I felt, the more fearful I felt, the less of a man I felt.
Wow.
Because whenever I'm trying to correct her or giving her some advice, or she's angry and she doesn't want to accept what I'm saying, or maybe she's telling me, because there were times that she would say she wanted me to leave. I left so many times. She kicked me out of the house so many times.
In addition, apart from calling the police, she'll just say, it's time to pack your bags.
Yes, there were times she threw my stuff out. There were times she kicked me out. I had to go and sleep in my friend's house, my sister's house, church members' houses.
Wow.
It was becoming a regular thing. I remember times when I slept in my car, and I was just afraid to correct her at any time, because she could just get angry and say, "Oh, leave," or "I'm going to call the police on you."
Wow. Wow. Thank you very much for, just making yourself vulnerable, in fairness, thank you. you know. And there is now another thing that I would like to ask before we get into other questions, actually. During this time of abuse, physical, attacks, verbal altercation, and things like that, was there any time that you sustained any physical injury?
Yes. I remember there was a time, I think I was at the Liberty Church at that time, and at that period of time, I was the only worship leader.
Okay.
And then there was a day on a Sunday, I was about to leave to go to church, and she locked the door. She locked the door and hit the key. And
Wow.
I appealed to her. I like, listen, I'm the only one that can lead praise and worship. I'm supposed to lead praise and worship today. Please open the door. She refused to open the door. And in my desperation, because I really wanted to get to church, I jumped over the balcony, off the balcony, from the first floor. I jumped down, and I was wearing some heavy shoes on that particular day. I ended
Wow.
up fracturing my ankle.
Wow.
Yeah, but I wasn't aware at the time that my ankle was fractured. So I spoke to the pastor on the way. I told him the situation, what was going on. When I got to church, I led praise and worship, and people that know me know that this is Remi loves to jump.
Mm.
They call me the jumping pastor. But that particular day, that particular Sunday, I could not jump.
Wow.
And I remember when I sat down in the congregation after praise and worship, I was feeling faint. I started feeling the pains and everything. And I remember Pastor Shola, he was looking at me and trying to calm me down as I was, he could see while he was preaching, you could see I was in agony.
Mm.
But eventually, I couldn't withhold myself. I had to rush out. Luckily, I had two sisters in my church at the time, and they rushed me to hospital.
Wow.
And the doctor said I'd fractured my ankle, put me in a cast, and I was in the cast for a few months.
Wow.
So, and I have to say, I have a limp because of that. The way I walk,
Till today.
till today.
Wow.
Till today, I remember somebody seeing me, said, "Oh, you have a peculiar way of walking."
Okay.
But
I used to, I've seen you. I thought it was a swag.
oh no,
Wow.
that's no swag.
Wow.
So yeah, I went through that, and that was an injury that I got.
Wow. So on that day,
Yeah.
when you got back home, what was your ex's reaction?
Strangely, my sister took me back home. Two of my sisters. I was hoping that my wife at the time would be more caring, more remorseful, but she started laughing.
Wow.
I'll never forget that day. She was laughing at me, and unfortunately, she was quite rude to my sisters.
So she laughed at you,
Yeah.
and she was also rude to your sister on the
Yes,
same day.
on the same day.
Wow.
On the same day. And I remember the police was involved again that particular day. Yeah, and that's one thing. She didn't have a good rapport with my family as well, and unfortunately, she tried to kind of keep me away from my family, and it was just me and her, and she tried to keep all these things secret.
Wow. So she kept you away from your family.
Yeah.
But what about her own family?
Well,
And what was your relationship with them?
I had a good relationship with her family. I treated them as if they were my own sisters.
Okay.
But it wasn't reciprocated. She didn't treat my family like her own, and I remember many occasions she would say to me, "It's either me or them. If you want to be with them, then just know that you're not coming back to this house. I don't want to have anything to do with your sisters or your family." I don't know why in her head she felt like they didn't like her,
Okay.
and that was contrary. They liked her, but obviously they weren't happy about some of her behaviors. But she kept me away from my family, which was kind of regret keeping away from them.
Wow. Wow. So While all these were going on, you know, the abuse, you know, the insults and everything, was there any time you opened up to anybody, or I know that you had to, the police was involved at some point, you had to go for counseling for about 6 months, but those were third parties, so to speak. Those were apart from that, was there any time that you opened up to maybe any other person, even though she would not allow you to speak to your family? Was there any other person that you opened up to?
Yes, I mean, my when I was in House on the Rock, my pastor at the time, I used to speak to him about, the situation. They ended up counseling us. Also, when I was in the Liberty Church, the pastors there and his wonderful wife, they counseled us as well. So I did have, and I had some friends who were also pastors who were also counseling us as well.
So
So
it wasn't just you they would counsel, they counseled the two of you.
yes, they
Okay.
counseled both of us. But one thing I realized that, in spite of all the counseling, she would still do her own thing.
Mm,
So as we're being counseled, she'll give this impression that she's changing.
mm.
But as soon as we're out of there, she's back to her old ways.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much for clarifying that. Now, in addition to all this, was there any financial challenges?
Yes, we had a few financial. I mean, there were times that I wasn't working.
Mm,
Times where I was looking for work. Times when I did get a job and it wasn't paying enough. So there was a lot of financial strain on us. And then she wasn't working for a long period of time because when we got married, she got pregnant early in the first year of our marriage, and so she wasn't really working that much. So I was mostly working, but there was still a strain on us financially.
mm. Okay. So you said that most of the time when you were together, she wasn't working, but did she have the ability to earn though?
Definitely. I mean, she was and is an intelligent woman. And even when I met her, she had a wonderful job. So yeah, she had the ability. She was a very smart woman. Later on in the marriage, she got a few jobs here and there, but they were always temporary. She never kept them. And
Okay.
and I remember there was a time that I really wanted her to work because I was working, but I felt like if she worked as well, it would help us financially.
Mm,
Combining both our finances. And I remember she got a very, very good job, which was a miracle that she got that job.
mm.
And I remember on the first day that she was going to work, the first day, on the way to this job, she turned back.
Wow.
So, and that was
Why did she do that?
I don't know, but according to her, she felt like, oh, she wants to be with the children. She doesn't feel that I'll be able to cope with the children as much as she does. And I don't know whether that was an excuse, but that was it. She
At
did.
this point, how many kids did you have?
At that point, we may have had about three or four, probably four.
Okay.
Um, yeah, probably four. And yeah, I was so disappointed that day because I really wanted her to work. She's a very smart woman, but it didn't happen.
Wow. So she turned back from, you know, so on her way to work, you said she turned back and she just felt, nah, you won't be able to take care of the kids like she would. Okay. Now, if I may ask, how many kids have you got
Five.
together? So
We have five children. I have five children.
fantastic.
Yes.
I've seen you relate, to your children before, and I think you seem to love having them around. You love being with them. Is that the case?
Yeah, I mean they're my world. I
Wow.
I love them so much. I remember when the separation happened in 2020 before we were divorced in 2021. I was so depressed of the fact that I wasn't with them every day.
Mm.
I used to like read them. I used to sing them. I wrote a song. I would sing them a song
Wow.
as they go to sleep every night. I read the scriptures or read books to them, pray over them. The thought of me not being with them for one day um, was so painful. So I
Wow.
I love them with my heart. They mean everything
Wow.
to me, and yeah, I'm just so grateful to God that He gave me those wonderful children
Wow.
with her, and I bless God for her life as well. That God used her, and she gave birth to them, all five of them naturally. She's a strong woman, and I still celebrate her for that.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you very much for sharing that. Now, I know that there is a question that is, I believe our viewers will also like to have an answer to. Initially, you told us that the problem started when she was pregnant with your first child. Someone out there, I believe, is thinking, if the problem started and you could see this red flag at the initial stage of the marriage when you only had one child, why did you end up having four more kids with her? Why five children in an abusive marriage?
Well, even though it was an abusive marriage,
Hmm.
um, I loved her very much. I really loved her, and she had this love for children. Every time she gave birth to one child, um, months down the line, she'd say, "Remy, I want another one." and
Wow.
and I loved her, and I wanted to make her happy. I wanted her to be happy, and I didn't expect we would have five children. Grateful to go for five children. I was thinking that maybe three,
Okay.
maximum. But one after the other. Each time we had a child, she would say, "I want another one. I
It
want
just
another
kept
one."
coming.
So they just kept coming, and five is the number of grace. So
Fantastic. Five is the number of grace.
yeah,
That's deep.
yes, that is deep.
Excellent. Wow. Wow. Excellent. But at the moment, though, even though you've got five,
Yeah.
you feel fulfilled having those kids.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's a blessing.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to God that He gave me those children. I mean, there was a time in my life that I was like, would I even ever get married? Would I even ever have children?
Mm.
And these were some fears in my mind. And then for God to bless me with five
With five.
children,
Amazing.
I cannot be more thankful
Amazing.
to the Lord.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. Now, moving on, you've told us about the physical abuse, the verbal abuse, the injuries you've sustained, the financial challenges that were involved in the marriage. Now, there is another paramount question that I would like to ask. While you were married,
Yeah.
was there any incident of infidelity?
Yes, there was. There was.
Well, would you
Um,
be happy to shed a bit more light on
Definitely,
that?
yes. I believe this was around 2000 and I think 15, maybe 7, 8 years into our marriage.
Hmm.
Um, there was a woman in my choir who approached me and said her husband was having an affair. And she was like, "Oh, Pastor Remy, what do I do?" So I was advising her on about how to handle, the situation. And as time went on, as we began to communicate and I was getting information, I realized that her husband was having an affair with my wife.
Wow.
And this was somebody,
So did
yeah,
the lady know the woman her husband was having an affair with?
no, she didn't know. And she held my wife at the time in high esteem. And when I found out that, and this guy was, he was like, I mentored him, music wise. He was in my choir, in the choir at the church. So when I found out that it was him, I was distraught.
Wow.
I was distraught.
So When did you find out it was him? Was it during that conversation as well, or
Yes, it was. No, it was.
sometime later?
Sometime later, because I
Okay.
began to dig deeper to find out what's going on with her husband, with the lady's husband, and then I began one way or the other. I found some emails, some communications between my wife and him, some
Wow.
texts, and which revealed that they'd been sleeping together.
Oh, Jesus.
And I began to put two and two together, because I remember there was a time where she went out in her pajamas at night, with a dressing gown, and I said, "Where you going?" She said, "Oh, I'm just going to the shops." I'm like, "Hey, you're a woman of God. You can't go in your pajamas in the night to the shops." And she was like, "Oh, everyone does it. You're so old. You're old school. You're so Nigerian, you know."
Wow.
And so I didn't even suspect. But it was late. It was later after that. That's when that woman approached me, and then I found all the emails and all of that, and realized that.
So what you're saying is when she dressed up in her pajamas with the house coat, so to speak, her nightgown, going out, she was actually going to meet someone.
I believe so. Definitely,
Wow.
I believe so, because she'd never done this before.
Wow.
So
And she turned the table around.
yeah.
Said that, oh, you were being old school.
Oh yeah, and I got that all throughout the marriage. I was always old school, and I was so maybe over religious, controlling. I'm like, you're a woman of God.
It's interesting that someone will describe you as old school. If anything, you are not old school, man of God.
Thank you.
You are one of the most contemporary men of God I've met in my life, I tell
wow.
you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
There's
Thank you.
nothing old school about you.
Thank you very much.
Please
Yeah.
carry on with your
So
story.
eventually I got all the information out, and where they were making fun of me in the emails, where they were saying, "Oh, we enjoyed the night they had together the other day,"
Jesus.
and yeah, it was pretty bad.
Wow.
And eventually I confronted her, and
Uh-huh.
like, you're having an affair. She denied everything. Denied
In
everything.
spite of the evidence.
Yes, I showed her the evidence. She denied everything. And my wife at the time, whenever she lies, she has this thing of she laughs.
Oh.
So when I confronted her, she started laughing, and I knew she was lying. But anyway, apart from that, I had all the evidence. She denied it. It took a long while before she confessed that, yeah. But when she did confess, it wasn't like she was remorseful. It was like, yeah, so what? Yeah, he's a better man than you will ever be.
Wow.
And so these are things that I was hearing even till the separation. Many occasions she would say, yeah, you're nothing. That guy I slept with was the better guy. You'll never be anywhere near him.
Wow.
So and besides, yeah, I you're not even my husband. Your wife is someone else, and strange things.
What is that?
Strange things. And
you were together then? You were still married then?
yeah, we were still married then. And one of the things that I held to my heart was never to cheat on my wife. Never.
Yeah.
We made.
That's a line.
Yeah.
You do not want to cross.
Yes, I mean, we made vows. I mean, our wedding was anointed. There were like 12 men of God that surrounded us, praying for us. I remember when we were on our wedding day, and we made vows like in sickness and health. I was like, no, I will never break this vow. I will love her forever. That was my desire. So, for her to accuse me and saying that, oh, you have your wife is someone else,
Wow.
and I am not your wife. I'm just your friend. And we
Wow.
already had 5 children then.
Wow.
So, but anyway, back to me finding out that she was sleeping and she was having an affair. Eventually, even the guy confessed to me. I remember he knelt down at my church in the car park and begged me and said he's so sorry. He was more remorseful
Mm,
than my wife.
mm.
And I just looked at him when he was on the ground and I said, "Who am I? I'm not God to not forgive you."
Mm.
And I forgave him right there. And he said, he's never seen a man of God like me. To God be the glory. But yeah, so it was all confirmed. And yeah, we were going through counseling in the church as well as a result
So
of
the
that.
church got to know about it as well. And so you had further counseling in addition to what you've had in the past.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I mentioned it to the pastor, and he opened up his doors for both of us to come to their house, and he was counseling, and he was a blessing, a great
Mm.
blessing. He really, really tried for us, and but unfortunately, my wife at the time had a mind of her own.
Wow. Wow. So apart from that incident, that particular one, was there any other one
Um, you
that
know,
you are aware of? Maybe
yes,
before, during or after?
yes. I am aware that she made advances at some of my friends, on some of my friends.
Whoa.
Yeah, she, made an attempt on my one of my closest friends.
Wow.
And thank God that he was a man of God and rebuked her. But when I reflect back, when I look back, and I remember some periods or season in our lives,
Yeah.
I, I am sure there was more than one encounter with other men.
Yeah.
And
In fairness, though, one is enough. One
yes,
is bad enough,
yeah,
if truth be told.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I have to say this, that I still loved her.
Wow.
I still loved her. I'm not saying I'm flawless. I had my flaws, you know. I was still working on some things with myself as well. But in terms of her um, committing adultery or involved with infidelity in the picture, I still loved her because I said, "Till death do us part." That's how I saw it. I was like, I have to forgive her. I'm a Christian, you know, and I kept forgiving her each time.
Hmm.
Um, but it seemed like she didn't really care.
Wow. So this incident happened, at least you got to know about this case of infidelity in 2014, 2015,
Yeah,
and you were still together till 2021.
yeah.
So that's about 7, 8 years that you still kept pushing it, trying to make it work.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and I must say this. I mean, there was a time that we were having counseling in the Liberty Church, and then great counseling. Thank God for the pastor there, Pastor Bimbo, Pastor Shola. They really helped us, and it got to a point where she said she didn't want to be counseled by them anymore.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was trying everything possible to make our marriage work, but it seemed like I was the only one fighting for the marriage. Um, it seemed like she had already packed her bags out of the marriage, even though we were still in the
Mm.
marriage. And I was trying to do everything possible to make us be together because we have 5 children together. I still
Wow.
loved her.
Yeah.
I'm not about to abandon her with 5 children, and but I don't think that's what she wanted.
Wow. 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 Thank you very much, man of God, for sharing this. Wow. Now, you've made us aware that, there had been a lot of problems right from, let's say, year one and things like that. And you continued, you kept pushing it on. But eventually, in 2020, you were separated, and 2021, you finalized the divorce. So now, what was the last straw that broke the camel's back in 2020?
Well, 2020, that was during the COVID period.
Yeah.
I remember we had a misunderstanding,
Okay.
and I felt like the argument was getting a bit heated, and I said to her, "Look, time out. I need some time out. I'm going to take a walk, and just get some fresh air because it was getting really bad,
Mm.
and I didn't want it to get worse than it was already." So as I was about to leave, she was like, "Oh no, no, you can't go anywhere. You're spineless.
Wow.
You're less of a man. Stay and confront the issues. You're always trying to run away." And I wasn't trying to run away. I was just trying to calm the situation
Yeah.
down. And there have
Yeah.
been many instances where I try to
And I reckon that's one of the tools that you learned, during your counseling sessions.
definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. That's one of the reasons why I try to insert time out in our marriage whenever we're having arguments. But each time I would try to take time away and walk away. In her eyes, she felt like I was weak, and she would tell me these things. And sometimes I would tend to believe, that I was weak. Sometimes I believe that, oh, am I less than a man? Just because I want peace and I want to walk away and come back to it. So I was beginning to believe it. But here in 2020, I tried to leave the house, and she blocked me from leaving
Wow.
the room. I remember we were in the room that time. She stood in front of the doorway and physically was pushing me from leaving.
Wow.
And I knew, because I had noticed her pattern. She had a pattern. She had a pattern to provoke me. And sometimes her aim, I knew she had an aim. The aim was, I want to get Remi out of this house. So what she would do was she would provoke me, try to make me lose my temper, or try to make us get into a scuffle, then call the police
Yeah. Okay.
on me. And so I knew her games. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to leave. But she stood, I'll never forget that day. She stood, she blocked me, she was pushing me. And then we got into a scuffle. And the next minute, she was like, leave. I want you to leave. I want you to leave the house now. And I remember saying to her that, listen, this is COVID. Where am I going to go? And for the first time in my life, I'm going to say this, for the first time in my life, in my marriage, I called the police.
Wow.
So I called the police, and the reason why is, like, I called the police and said, look, me and my wife, we've had a misunderstanding. We've had a situation, and she's demanding that I leave. And this is COVID. I don't know what to do. There's nowhere to go. And I remember the police saying that, oh, have you tried to resolve it? Have you tried to talk this thing through? And I said she wasn't listening. They said, okay, we'll try and send someone to come and talk with you guys. But they didn't come. I think this happened. The argument happened during the day, early in the day, and then they didn't come. And then I remember her sister came sometime during the day, and then
that was COVID.
Yeah, her sister. It was COVID, the COVID period. Then her sister came, and before you know it, the police showed up.
Okay.
In the house, and they were speaking to me. They said, "You seem to be like a very calm, peaceful person. We're just going to speak to your wife in the living room." So I think the female police went in, women police went in, and they were talking to her and her sister. Next minute, this is like hours later from the argument we had early during the day. Next minute, I'm hearing that my wife is crying in front of the police. And before you know it, the policemen say that, oh, Remi, she says she wants you to leave, and that she's fearful of you, and the house is in her name, and you have no right to this house, so we would like you to leave. And that was the beginning of the real separation, because we'd been separated many times. She would say leave, we'll be separated. I'll go stay with my sister, stay with my friends, stay with the church, friends. And but this time, this one was real. And I remember, and I'll say this, the policemen, they even drove me to where I was going to stay, in my friend's house.
Wow.
And it was a sad day. It was very, very sad. I'll never forget that day.
So from that point, when you called the police and the police took you out to stay at your friend's place, have you ever been back in the house?
Well, yes, but I have to say this first. So when I was staying with my friend, and I wanted to go back, I thought that she was going to take me back because we've had separations before. But this time around, she said no, she doesn't want me to come back. So I ended up getting my own place.
Okay.
So even though I got my own place, she would call me, come to the house.
She would. So shortly after you got your own place, she started calling you again.
Yes.
Wow.
She started calling me, come to the house, come and eat, come, let's watch movies together.
Wow.
Spend time with the children. I remember doing barbecue in the garden.
Whoa.
Even though we were separated. But this time around, for the first time ever, I'd gotten my own place because she said she didn't want me back yet. So, I was used to this thing of her calling me back, because sometimes even when I would go and stay with my friends after she'd kicked me out, she would still say, "Oh, Remi, can you come and do this, come and do that." So, but this time around, I felt like, oh, it's just
one of those things.
One of those things.
Yeah.
Eventually, she's her heart's gonna soften, and she's gonna say, "Okay, come back to the house." So I would go there. I mean, I'll be open. I mean, I would go there. We were still making love.
Wow.
Even though. And one day we were just chatting, having a nice conversation. And she says to me, "Oh, Remi, I know we're laughing and we're having fun right now, but I just want you to know I'm going to divorce you."
Whoa.
So I'm like, "What do you mean?" Said, "I'm going to divorce you." So I was in shock, but I said, "Nah, maybe she's joking." And then another time she would call me, "Come to the house, Remi, come to the house, come and have fun, be with the kids, everything. We're all enjoying ourselves. She's enjoying me, I'm enjoying her, just like normal." And then again, she said, "Oh, Remi, I'm going to divorce you. When you get the letter, please respond to it."
Wow.
And I couldn't believe it. And she said to me, I'll never forget, she said to me that, "Remi, listen, I regret the day I ever married you.
Wow.
I regret ever walking down the aisle with you. I regret bearing your surname."
Wow.
And, when I heard that, the surname one, especially, and walking down the aisle, when I went back home, I went and prayed to the Father. I said, "Father, look at what your daughter is saying. And she's saying that she wants a divorce. And she says she doesn't want to bear my name." And I was still trying to, because I remember appealing to her, "Don't do this. What are you going to do? You're not working. I'm the only one working. We've got 5 children together. I still love you. Don't do this. Why are you doing this?" And she's like, I don't love you." So when I went to the Lord and spoke to the Lord about it, she said she doesn't want to bear my name again. And I'll never forget, my name is, they know me as Remi or Pastor Remi, but my full name is Oluwaremi Lekun. And I remember her saying to me that, "Hey, Remi, you deceived me with your name. You said your name is Remi, but your name is Oluwaremi Lekun." So I'm like, this is not making any sense.
Nah.
This is not making any sense. So I spoke to the Lord, and God spoke to my heart and said, "You can't force her to love you."
Wow.
And when I heard that, I let go. I said, "Okay, Lord, I'll let her have her way."
Wow.
And that's when I signed the divorce papers.
Wow. Wow. And this was 2021.
Yeah, 2021. 2021. And it was a very tough time for me. Very, very tough because, after the divorce, I was depressed.
Wow. I can imagine.
As a worship leader and music minister, I couldn't minister for a whole year.
Wow.
I took time out. I'll be at work and I would just break down crying.
Oh, Jesus.
I was constantly distraught. I mean, there were times where I'm working and I'm in so much pain. I'm full of tears, and they'll let me go home.
Wow.
And it was so painful. I didn't think I was even going to survive. I was like, and I would tell the truth. There was a point that I was almost suicidal.
Wow.
But because I was so deep in Christ, and I knew that if you kill yourself, you are going to hell. So, I think that was the only thing that kept me going, and not to commit suicide. And thank God for friends. And I had to I had to reconnect with my sisters. I reconnect with them. I humbled myself. I apologized. I said, I'm sorry that I've kept away from you, or she kept me away from you guys. I humbled myself, and I reconnected with my family, and they were great support. My friends, they were great support. Constantly getting counseling, and throughout that first year, I refused to minister for a year, and eventually I was able to gain strength again, and and then continue. But for the first 1 year after that divorce, it was hard.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wow. That is deep. I've heard you share the story briefly before, but this is actually eating a different on another level.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Wow. Now, you've been divorced since 2021. So, what is happening in your life? What have you been doing?
Well, I am. Well, I've been doing a few things. But I have to say that God has been so good.
Praise God.
God has been wonderful. If it hasn't been for God, I don't know how I would have survived this divorce, because my whole desire was never to let divorce be in my marriage. I've seen friends and family divorce before, and I said, I don't want that for me. So after the divorce, I felt like a failure, and I felt like I'd failed. I felt like I didn't feel like a man. But post divorce, God has strengthened me. I think I'm much more stronger now. I've looked back at some of my ways, and I've corrected so many things. I've worked on so many things. I'm much happier. I'm more mature,
Okay.
because
Great.
I feel like when we were married, both of us were immature in so many ways. But I'm more mature now,
Excellent.
and I continue to minister.
Fantastic.
That's what He's called me to do, and I thank God for every opportunity that He's given me to minister. And I'm working hard for my children, for the future, and that's where I am right now.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Pastor Remi, for sharing. Now, we will be rounding up very shortly, but before we do, I would like you to advise or speak to any man out there who is going through something similar, or who might have gone through it and they don't know how to navigate their way, and their lives after such a shock, because, a divorce is usually, it's a trauma, isn't it? It could be very traumatic. So I want you to look at that camera. What would be your advice to a man like that?
Well, first thing I'll say is that you're not alone in the situation that you're going through, and that God cares about you, and that you should be strong, because the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy, and take even your manhood away. Take the fact that God has made you the priest of your home, that God has made you a leader of your home, and the enemy's plan is to strip all that away from you so that you become weak. And so that you submit to whatever the enemy or the person that is abusing you is saying. But I believe that God is saying that you're strong, and that you should not give up. And because domestic abuse is so powerful negatively that it can take hold of your mind, and you can begin to believe some of the things that you're encountering. So I want to encourage you, get help, get advice, get counseling. If you're in the marriage right now, get counseling. Surround yourself around people that will give you good advice and how to. I want to say this: domestic violence is not the way. I learned the hard way. I learned, and God taught me, and God showed me that this is not my plan for you. And but if you know that you're in a marriage and you're experiencing domestic violence and it's killing you, get counsel, speak to the Lord. If the Lord is saying it's time for you to come out of that marriage, come out of that marriage. But what I want to say finally is to be strong, and to have your voice. Let your voice be heard. Do not let your voice be silenced. And remember that love is the key. As people of God, the Bible says God is love, and he that loves God, you know God and you love God, and the truth or the fruit behind you loving God is you loving other people. So domestic violence is not the way. Get help, and you're better than where you are, and you are strong, and God has called you to do great things.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you so much, Pastor Remi. Once again, it's been a pleasant pleasure having you on the Total Man Diaries podcast. And thank you so much for sharing your story with us, not holding back any of the intricate details. I really, really appreciate you. Thank you so very much.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. Fantastic. If you have been affected by anything we have discussed on this episode today, you can reach out to the organizations on your screen right now, and they will be happy to help. And also, if you have received any value from this episode of the Total Man Diaries podcast, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on all our social media handles. I remain your host, Deji Oke, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Total Man Diaries podcast.